Campaign's point man for the Georgia recount, GOP Congressman Doug Collins, tells One America's John Hines the decision for the recount is a major victory for President Trump's campaign.
The state will conduct a hand recount of presidential election votes, a hand recount of presidential election votes to occur in Georgia. What do you make of that, Congressman Collins?
Well, we're glad about it. This was a letter that we wrote yesterday to the Secretary of State. We asked for this hand recount. We believe it's the first step toward ensuring the voters of Georgia and also the country that the election process down here was fair and that every legal vote was counted and that every illegal vote is cast out. This is a good first step to that. We have other things that we're looking at as we go forward, but this is the key right here, making sure that we take each of those hand ballots and count them so that we can confirm and look at those ballots so we can make sure the election was handled properly.
Now, I have heard from some people that a recount often doesn't make a material difference in a vote. I've also heard, though, from some, you're also a lawyer in addition to being a minister, so you probably would be familiar with this. I've heard from some lawyers saying that oftentimes a recount will reveal some vote patterns, some irregularities would provide a basis for legal action. Is that part of what you're trying to accomplish here, sir?
Well, look, there's all things on the table right now. What we need to accomplish is the fact that this vote needs to be counted. We need to make sure that there are no irregularities, that the people can be sure that when they cast that vote into that machine is actually counting them. And this is the way we can do that. And it's one step in the process. It's that first step toward ensuring the ballot integrity. It's the first step in ensuring that legal votes count. You know, look, I know that they're wanting to move on. The Democrats and Biden think that they have it won, but no, there's a legal process. This is not over yet, and we're going to pursue those avenues that are provided by law. This has nothing to do with sour grapes or do we not think we won. It has everything to do with making sure the integrity of the election counts, because this is not the only election we'll ever have. In fact, in Georgia, we've got a couple more coming up, and we need to make sure that they're right for those elections too.
So the president is behind by about how many votes in Georgia at this time, sir? Do we know?
I believe it's about 14,000 I heard this morning.
Yeah. And would this potentially, this recount, it could potentially make a difference with respect to that one Senate race, Senator Perdue, who was awfully close to that 50% threshold. Is that correct?
I think the ballot, we're looking at the presidential race, but this again, if we see indiscrepancies here, if we see problems in this ballot, which you just talked about a few minutes ago, then it opens up the possibility of the other races that we're seeing as well. So again, this is a less than 0.5%. We're way under 0.5% difference here. This is mandated, you know, that the law, there's going to be an automatic recount. What the Secretary of State did, though, was agree with us is since we now have these pieces of paper, these hand ballots, let's actually, that were presented to each voter, let's actually use those because they're identifiable. We can know where they come from and we can continue the process of a fair election.
Now, the procedure is after the recount, then someone, I guess, certifies the vote. Is that how that works?
It does. There'll be the Secretary of State and the governor has a part to play in that as well. But we'll see what happens through this and any other issues that we're having with people coming forward with problems that they had. And then can decide, you know, post-recount what happens to happen at that point.
And then until then, the presidential race in Georgia, I gather, would not have been called. It would still remain up in the air or not called. Is that correct?
It is not called at this point and will not be called. Until these at least next few measures are actually completed. The Secretary of State in Georgia has until November 20th to certify the election. We should have plenty of time to get this recount done. Look, this is not over. Let's take a deep breath as a collective, as a country. We've had a long, contentious battle. Now let's get every vote legally counted so that we can move forward. That's what makes us different.
Congressman Doug Collins working on the recount, the Georgia recount. Some good news there. Thank you very much for talking to us on One America News. It's good to catch up with you, sir.
It's